And we are live, Commissioners.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I call this February 26th meeting of the Riley County Commission to order. Please everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Something good must be happening this morning to draw a crowd on this beautiful sunny and spring Monday morning.
To see us.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about money, are we? Did I miss something on the agenda? I think Shannon's got an announcement for us, I'm assuming, huh?
Yes, I do. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Shannon Sterling. I am the REACH Committee Chair. Today, I'm here to present the Employee of the Month Award for March 2024. This person was nominated by their peer because he has been amazing. He has always had a smile on his face and is always positive. He has so much knowledge to learn from, even from the old movies he watches. He is always here to help everyone and wants the best for everyone. He is always checking up on everyone and is sincerely the best. Steve Shirley from the Appraiser's Office, would you please come up and accept the award for Employee of the Month?
This is a surprise. Oh, hold on here. I want to hear more about these old movies.
Well, you have to understand, old, they're not even old to me, they're my time, like Dumb and Dumber, kind of those.
Oh, wait, that's old on my line. Wait a minute.
See, exactly, so they're considered old for the young generation. So, yeah, and this is awesome, thank you all, I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah. It's hard for him to smile now. Right.
Tied it up in the cord.
Okay, big smiles. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations, yes.
That was my excuse to get you guys here. I come up with a pretty good one.
They're getting harder and harder, aren't they? Especially when they're involving us in those, like last month. Okay. Do we have any other public comments this morning? I saw that you said Evan, so I thought we were gonna have good news this morning.
Well, we'll hope maybe later.
Okay.
Just one of the lists, there's a problem with subdivision, March 11th, road and bridge crew will be going on for it.
Oh, okay. I have had a couple questions on Moment Road too while you're here. While that's closed over the next couple of days, basically to get out to the transfer station, South Manhattan, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of what I assumed, so,
Just through March 5th or the 7th.
okay,
And then half that.
okay, appreciate it.
That is bad.
Well, bad news would be you couldn't get out there at all, so this is kind of glass half empty, half full, so we'll just call that one a wash.
Plus you didn't go to the podium, so it's like it never happened.
At least I can answer that question, so, yeah, that works, okay. Anybody else with anything this morning? Okay, we'll move on then to, commission comments and Commissioner McKinley.
All right, well, the weekend, not other than keeping up with email, which is never possible. Just enjoyed the fake spring weather for the last few days.
Coincide with fake Patty's Day, is that
Yeah,
something?
so. That's all I got.
Well, I don't have a whole lot either, but it is good to be back after about 4 weeks. So, like I say, it's good to be back in the land of the living.
Welcome back.
I'll
So,
go back, yeah. No, I've got quite a bit, actually. I'll try to get there pretty fast here. Friday morning, I met with Kathy Sexton via Teams. She's senior management consultant at Wichita State University, former city manager with the city of Derby, amongst other related roles in local government. Talked on the subject of strategic planning and development. She's become highly recommended by several different people, so that's why I reached out. She's worked with other entities, including the League of Municipalities and KAC in the past, particularly on the retreat planning and other meeting outlines. Got a lot of valuable information and dialogue. Could be a good possibility for a moderator when we decide on the logistics of our own retreat somewhere down the road. Just really wanted to start just plugging in some details, that sort of thing, and spoke for well over an hour. So, like I said, really got some good ideas there. And then on that subject, I did meet later on with Amanda Webb and Elizabeth Ward on the same subject, plugging in just some information and dialogue, just getting some logistics down and just kind of seeing where the direction's going. And just, of course, you know me, I've got to put in my 2 cents. Good old shy introverted me. We'll just leave it at that. Anyway, we've had some really good dialogue there, and I'm feeling good about the direction that we're heading towards as we move into that moving forward. So I'll leave it at that. Also on Friday, I met with Andrea Orlana. She is the Drug Endangered Children's Coordinator for the Riley County Health Department. We discussed drug education and particularly the effects it's having on children here locally. I put some information, I think, in both of your guys' boxes. If you choose to reach out, you can do that on your own accord. There's several different programs that may be possible to help fill in the gaps here with that and try to help. She discussed the role of that part-time position. It's basically to safeguard the welfare of children who are at risk by substance abuse and drug-related environments. And the position will work on several different objectives, including identification and assessment, as well as intervention and drug-related environments, and provide education and awareness through collaboration and coordination, and trying to find preventative measures through education and advocacy. Had a really, really good dialogue on there. Like I said, this is kind of a part-time position, but we're all trying to figure out how to do some of these things moving forward, and it's just kind of a shot in the dark sometimes on this. Lastly, I met with George Kent and Allison Muth over at the Chamber, discussed possibly being a mentor in their mentorship program and their Hype Young Professionals of Manhattan group. Got to be honest, I've never really considered myself to be much of a mentor, to be honest with you, but maybe this is out of desperation. I don't know. But to be honest with you, if I can kind of fit it into my schedule and have some time to do this, maybe we want to help some of our younger career-minded, particularly civically minded business professionals in the community and help them get ahead of some current trends and help them be successful in their future endeavors as much as I possibly can. It's not really outside of the scope. It's just not anything had really thought about. So Saturday, I headed out to the 47th annual Flint Hills Home Show at the National Armory. That was presented by the Flint Hills Area Builders Association. Very, very well attended. Probably the best well attended one I've seen, but sometimes I tend to go on Sundays and not Saturdays. So that may have had something to do with it, just throwing that out there. Had opportunity to see some of the newest home living ideas and innovations, anything from remodeling to decorating to landscaping, roofing, siding, windows, doors, furnishing, decor. We even had education programs, scholarships, and things to even help with insurance and mortgage. So a lot more vendors than I think I remember being present in the last couple of years. It had something to do with COVID, and it's finally getting back to normal numbers. Wanted to point out that a proceed of those ticket sales went to support local education programs and scholarships and construction and trade programs well within the region too, which I always like to hear. Saturday afternoon, I was also able to watch the men's basketball team pick up a much needed win against BYU. Kind of a scrappy game, but that's kind of been the team overall. Women's team, I don't know. I know it was in Lawrence. Hey, you really that good? I don't know. It's kind of a struggle against USCF at home. I'm not sure what to expect. I hope they haven't peaked. I know with Aoka Lee not being maybe 100%, I don't know. Playing close games is not the worst thing this time of the year, but I don't know. K-State baseball started its home schedule off too. They went 1-1 in the first 2 games, some high scoring games. The pitching looked horrible. They went 1-1 there. They won a pretty close game yesterday, 4-3 to start the season off. Once again, I don't know what to expect there, I guess. Sunday evening, went last night, I went over, up in Leonardville, to Valley County Farm Bureau's annual Family Fun Night up at the Sykes venue. I wanted to say I'm glad to see the venues open and operational, considering everything's been going on there. There was plenty of updates given, including, from Kansas Farm Bureau President Joe Newland, Kansas Farm Bureau Vice President, and the Kansas Farm Bureau lobbyist gave us an update on everything that's going on from the Kansas legislature. Several awards were presented, including the 100-Year Family Farm Award. This went out to the Hanna family, and they got 2 farms, one in Riley County and one in Pot County. One of them's 112 and 114 years they've had in their family, 2 of them. I thought that was just amazing. Plenty of activities and games for the kids. They had a canned food drive, some live entertainment, great conversation. Food was catered by the farmhouse, so it was obviously good, and it was pretty well attended. The last thing I wanted to mention this morning, I want to congratulate the Manhattan High Wrestling Team, Class 6 state champions. Coached my friend and classmate Sean Bomas. He's been working really hard to bring that program back to a good standard and brought them all the way back to state championship. So congratulations, Sean, and congratulations to the squad. Working with the girls wrestling squad too, and they're going to be really good in a couple of years too. He's an All-American back in the day. I just wanted to point that out. So he knows what he's doing. So they're in good hands. So congratulations to him. So that's all I've got this morning, and let's jump into some business.
That first item, need a motion to accept low bid submitted by Icon Structures Incorporated in the amount of $457,500 for the 4th floor CPE renovation. This includes base bid plus alternate number 1 for Honeywell HVAC controls.
Okay, and it's scheduled to start on March 11th. Is that correct? For 105 days?
Mhm.
Okay.
Help me do the math. When does that pretty much make it kind of done? 105 days? I'm trying to do the math on the calendar, which it's not.
It's a little bit past our preferred deadline, but it's doable. So,
Well, it might go faster too.
yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
They always put days in there for a remodel. You never know what you're going to find. Isn't that correct, Commissioner McKinley?
There's always some surprises.
Uh-huh.
Always something.
So hopefully the surprises go easier than not as easy. So.
Yeah, let's see. You want to do it?
Yeah,
or-
go ahead.
Okay, I would make a motion that we approve the bid from Icon Structures, Inc. for $457,500 for the 4th floor remodel.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the bid from Icon Structures Incorporated for $450,000, $457,500 in the 4th floor Courthouse Plaza East remodel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, Commissioner, need a motion to accept low bid submitted by Ebert Construction, Inc. in the amount of $285,323.14 for the parallel road culvert replacement project.
I move to approve the bid from Ebert Construction for the parallel road culvert replacement amount of $285,323.14.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the bid from Ebert Construction Incorporated, $85,323.14 for the parallel road culvert replacement project. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, Commissioner, need a motion to approve severe weather preparedness week proclamation, March 4th through the 8th, 2024.
So I would make a motion to approve the severe weather preparedness week proclamation from March 4th through the 8th, 2024.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the severe weather preparedness week proclamation from March 4th through the 8th, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
All 3, please sign.
Looks like we might skip out on that first round tomorrow night. I think it's going to slide east. Oh, okay. Well, originally, we're talking about severe weather when this cold front came in, and now it's going through central Missouri, so make your night a little bit easier, I think.
Well, I was hoping she'd be like more like.
John is in trouble when you show up. How you doing?
Good, we need to talk to you.
Oh,
Sounds
spoke
good.
too soon.
Sounds good. Next, commissioners have Riley County Employee Action Forms, Carly Harris, new hire, and as an appraiser one residential in the appraisers department. Addison Morgan, new hire, election assistant, clerk elections department. Addison Martinek, new hire, elections assistant, clerk selection department. All three, please sign.
Oh, yeah.
Commissioners have a tentative agenda. Look. Good. Any items for next week's press conference? Oh, also any changes to the minutes? I skipped one. Sorry. Sorry. Any changes to the minutes?
I know.
I move we approve the minutes of meeting of the February 22nd meeting.
I would second that.
We moved to seconded to approve the minutes as written from the February 22nd meeting of the Riley County Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Just to be sure, Commissioner, no changes, no items for press conference or tentative agendas look okay?
Good and good.
Good and good.
Good.
Then next you have Robin Cole at 9 o'clock. This is where Clancy leaves.
Yeah. It's true.
What are you gonna do when the new person comes? Say.
Stick around.
There you go.
Stick around.
Stick around and see who's-
So that she can watch the meeting and see that I'm still.
When's the new person start?
Sometime in April, but officially in early May.
She said she.
And give a few weeks of overlap.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Brad, got a minute?
So we found somebody for that position.
Yeah, I've already technically got him hired. He's coming in from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard that part.
I don't even know that.
Her office might be you, so.
Culver's came in and sat down next to us and talked.
Okay.
She said that she was gonna have the announcement.
No, it's already been.
No, he's been announced, but she was gonna go over something like say when he
Yeah.
starts, and that, when she's done, instead of going to that stuff today.
He was here He was here last meeting, but it was during bad weather or something, so they didn't have the meet and greet dinner thing. So they're gonna try to reschedule it or something. They're coming all the way from the East Coast to here. It's hard to call me right now. So
Yeah, I'm pretty.
It's got pretty impressive background, both in the
It'll be okay.
private and public sector, so. He did a good job.
Yeah, I must have a week that I wasn't, but I know what's.
You gotta come back at 9:30.
You're on your own.
She did, didn't she? I know. I just wonder where I could get the most done. But I did things, the second package on me. I do have some beach. So, all right, I'll come.
Yeah.
That's funny. You tell Dylan that story.
I giggled though.
That is funny. What are the chances, huh? That's what he thought.
You nervous?
Should be. Are you? Yeah. Don't you be stirring stuff up with people I have to work with all the time.
This was good.
Pretty funny.
Give me $10, I'll let you know what it was.
I'll find out sooner or later, much cheaper, maybe much cheaper.
Guys be in t-shirts today and then moving snow Wednesday morning.
Welcome to Kansas, right?
Heard something like from Tuesday to Wednesday morning, a 70-degree temperature swing. Isn't that funny? What are the chances? See, I watched them build that thing because when I bought that place, I worked in the treasurer's office. I was the accountant back there. And many nights I had to sleep on the other side because we used to get big floods back then. That was 93. Matter of fact, I slept many nights in that 1987 Ford Thunderbird on the other side of that creek because we couldn't get through. And then in 93, it was flooded, right when you turn on Frog Holler, that little dip in the road. We'd have one vehicle parked there and one parked over in Eddie Doyle's place. And I would row a John boat across to the other vehicle to go back and forth to work while my wife was pregnant with our oldest, Blake. Yeah, that bridge I think cost $67,000 to put in back then. It was pretty cool watching them put those pilings in back then. It was a wet year to do with that thing. So it was old, the guy that got that through was an old township officer, Gene Lindsay, he used to own those 380s to the north of me. And he was the big guy because he was landlocked from one of his 80s because it was flooded all the time. And so he was the one in here that got that through. Of course, everyone thinks it's me because of the position I'm in now, but it was Gene Lindsay.
Oh. Was that you or did they get there just in the nick of time?
No, it's me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, looks like we have some things to work out still.
Always with changes.
Okay, Robin, you're up.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
It's good to be here today. Got several exciting things to talk about. Pawnee did just have its 6th annual Pancakes for Pawnee. That event was held at the West Early Edition. It went off without a hitch. We served more pancakes than any other year, except year 2, when we were open in both locations. We had the East Side Early Edition restaurant going and the West Side Early Edition restaurant going that second year. So we served 521 pancakes in 2.5 hours, which is pretty incredible. And I think beats a record for the Early Edition restaurant. So we're certainly very appreciative of all of the sponsors. Stormont Vale Foundation and Schilling Construction were our top 2 sponsors. And then, of course, we could not do this without the support of Marcy and Dave Uphoff, the owners of Early Edition. So we're very grateful to them for turning over their kitchen to us and allowing us to use it in that kind of a way. And then Anderson Knight Architects provided color changing cups that are good for free refills at either Early Edition location until the next Pancakes for Pawnee. So we're appreciative to them as well. And then Landmark National Bank and Ready Systems provided volunteers who helped carry the pancakes out to the cars. We've stuck with the drive-through and delivery model since COVID. You know, the first 2 events were in the restaurant in 19 and 20. And then in 21, we did drive-through and delivery, and that model has worked for us. And so I don't see us probably going back to dine-in anytime real soon. So I hope you'll look at our Facebook page where there's a complete list of all the sponsors for that event. I thought I'd also give you just a brief update of some things that are happening with the Kansas legislature this year. Of note, it appears that there is going to be a hearing on Medicaid expansion at some point this session. So I don't really know any more than that, other than it looks like it may be shaping up for that discussion. There's also a House Bill 2613 that would create a statewide drug abuse resistance education program educator position. I think we probably all have heard of DARE. It's been controversial in the past. Not, you know, when you think about controversy, you think of something strange going on. The controversial nature of it has really been, though, does it have the impact that it's expected to have in terms of developing resistance to drug abuse? But it's coming back. At least it's being discussed again as being something that would go back into the schools. So we're kind of watching that to see if there's a return of the DARE program as it had been at one point. There's also another bill that is really, I think, fascinating for me, and it would represent, I think it's an opportunity for how we handle individuals who are in acute mental illnesses. House Bill 2353 would allow for issues in an acutely mentally ill person's history to be considered with involuntary treatment orders. So, as you know, currently the criteria for involuntary admission is that you have to be in imminent or an acute danger to yourself or others. And that was really devised in such a way as to not hospitalize people on an unnecessary basis. But I think that over time, what we've seen a lot of times is that there are individuals who are so mentally ill, who sometimes fall through the cracks and don't actually get admitted for the treatment that they need, because in any given moment, they're able to say the things they need to say or behave in the way that they need to behave to not actually meet criteria. And so then the clinician who's doing the screen has to say, no, they don't meet involuntary status, or they don't meet the conditions of involuntary status, even though perhaps their family, their friends, maybe even their healthcare providers know that chronically there have been issues that demonstrated their danger to themselves or others. This bill would allow for that history to be taken into consideration when there's an evaluation being done. You know, and there are pros and cons to that. I think the pros are, what that might mean is that it would be easier to get access to involuntary treatment for someone who needs it, who maybe has learned how to just sort of pull it together in the moment so as to avoid the determination that they need to be hospitalized on an involuntary basis. The downside, I suppose, is that as with anything, there are always opportunities for decisions to be made that maybe people don't agree with, or for people to be hospitalized where maybe they didn't need to be hospitalized. So there's not a perfect science to this. It's truly an art, but I think that this bill will it will be a way to respond to some of the concerns that people have had for a long time when it comes to decision-making about hospitalization. And then another bill that is of note is that there is a bill dealing with the Social Work Interstate Compact, which would basically, for those participating states, would allow social workers to practice outside of just the state of their original licensure. In theory, that would increase access to care. I think it's a good move. I'm not sure it really will increase access to care, though, because you still have the same number of therapists or the same number of social workers. It's just that they have the ability to practice in more than one state. So we still have an issue with just workforce in general. And it's not just a Kansas issue, but it's an issue really throughout our nation when we're taking a look at just the whole mental health field. So I think, as you know, I'm pleased to report that after a national search, the governing board has hired the next CEO of Pawnee Mental Health. And in fact, today might be my last report to you. I'm not sure whether I'll be here for the next report, which would be in April or not. But for sure, Michael Rescala, who has a Master's of Public Administration from Anna Maria College in Paxton, Massachusetts, will be here in April. Michael most recently worked as the Vice President of Operations and the Chief Operating Officer at UMass Memorial Community Health Link in Worcester, Massachusetts. Community Health Link is a large multi-service organization. They are a community mental health center. They're a substance abuse prevention provider, and they also are a community health provider. I think that for me, part of what is very exciting is that Community Health Link is also a CCBHC, and it's a community mental health center. And as you know, then the whole state of Kansas is transitioning its community mental health centers to become CCBHCs. And again, CCBHC stands for a Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic. That is a federal Medicaid model. It's a federal Medicaid model that does a more assertive practice of coordinating primary care and behavioral health care. And so to have someone of his caliber who's coming to our community who already has experience with operating a certified community behavioral health clinic, I think is a real win for our county and but also for really the state. I don't think there's any CEO in the community mental health system in Kansas who came ready-made with CCBHC experience, because it's such a new such a new thing that all of us really are learning as we go. So Michael will start work on Monday. He'll be here March 4th. He and I will have the month of March to work together on creating a smooth transition. My last day in the office is still undecided, but it'll probably be several days into the month of April where I'll transition out, and then Michael will be taking over. He'll be formally introduced to the community at our annual celebration on April 23rd in Clay Center. And so I would encourage you, I will also be at that event, so that will be an opportunity for me. Every year we reflect on the accomplishments of the previous year. So I'll be there at that event to reflect back on our staff accomplishments from 2023. But it'll be at that time that our board president will officially introduce Michael as the new CEO of Pawnee Mental Health. So I do hope that you'll consider attending that celebration with us in April. And then you've probably seen some invitations to retirement events for me here in Manhattan. And so I would also love to see you at that on Thursday, April 4th from 4 to 6 at the Manhattan Entertainment Center. I guess the last thing I'd like to just mention is really just a reminder that we have a 3-year SAMHSA education grant, which allows us to provide community training free of charge. And that's something we've not always been able to do because to provide education in the community comes with a cost. But this grant allows us to provide mental health first aid and QPR free of charge to any group or organization or place of employment that is interested in these trainings. So mental health first aid, of course, is a national program. It's like first aid. It teaches skills to help participants render immediate mental health first aid assistance. It's an 8-hour training course, and the certification lasts for 3 years. That training helps identify risk factors and warning signs of mental illness, information on depression, anxiety, trauma, psychosis, and addiction disorders, and then also a 5-step action plan to help people know how to respond to somebody who has a developing mental health crisis or problem. The other thing about it is that it does provide resources that you can give to individuals who are facing that kind of a crisis. And then QPR stands for Question, Persuade, and Refer. It is also a national program. It's probably more like CPR in that it's a skills-based training program to identify and disrupt suicidal crisis. It is a 2-hour certification course. So in that regard, it's shorter, it's more intense, and it's more focused specifically on the issue of interrupting suicidal crisis. Whereas mental health first aid is broader, it's more general, and it includes skills and information really to address a number of different mental health issues. So I would just encourage you or anybody who's listening to contact us at training@pawnee.org. So training@pawnee.org, and you can ask for information about scheduling a course in your place of work or your organization. And again, that's a good, it's good for 3 years. So we are encouraging as many people who are interested in taking that as possible. Do you have any questions for me today?
Anybody?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin. Next, Commissioner Brittany Phillips at 9:15.
Game celebration this year.
Awesome. Okay, you did it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Brittany.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Phillips, Budget and Finance Officer. Today, we wanted to talk to you about some other funds that we do have within our budget that are not driven by ad valorem taxes. So they're not typically something that we talk about during the budget process. So I wanted to talk to you about them today, as we do start to head into the budget season. First, we have Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund. This can be used for road and bridges, water and sewer systems, educational services, meeting another federal program's non-federal match, but it cannot be used for lobbying purposes. So this is something that we do kind of tend to have a harder time spending because it's pretty specific on what you have to spend the money on. As of the end of January, the fund balance was $100,000. And then this is just a snapshot of resources available. So this includes unencumbered cash at the beginning of the year and revenue taken in, and then any expenditures that we have had. As you can see in the past, 2 years, we haven't spent anything, but of course, just so we have total budget authority for 2024, we do budget the whole amount of money to spend, but at this point, I don't believe we've spent anything. We have our tech funds. So we have registered deeds, clerk and treasurer tech funds. So the revenue from this is just quarterly interest and deed filing. So we get $3 for each page processed. $2 goes into the registered deeds tech fund and 50 cents each goes into clerk and treasurer tech funds. Expenditures obviously include technology for the respective departments. So the registered deeds tech fund balance was $174,241. Clerk was $170,384 and treasurer tech was $104,408. And again, just a snapshot of revenue and expenditures for these. Next, we have the auction fund. So this is for when we're auctioning off any equipment. So the revenue is for when we do auction off that equipment via Purple Wave or however else we may do that. And then expenditures include, transferring that money into CIP or contracting with moving companies so they can in fact move that equipment. And the fund balance is $304,073. And again, just a snapshot of actual and then budgets. EMS grant fund. They get $2,000 a year and they apply for this grant through the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation. And this is when they're doing their car seat checks. And so then they also just use that money to purchase car seats. The fund balance here is $6,370. Snapshot. The War Memorial, I put on here revenue was donations and grants. That's what's written into our state budget, but actually the revenue is from when people purchase like the bricks, and then the expenditures are of course when we get them engraved.
Is that open all year? That's only open a couple of times a year. Is that open all year?
All year.
It's open all year, but we only really push that like Memorial Day, Veterans Day,
I think, it's
Yeah.
kind of the
maybe 4th of July.
Veteran
maybe.
Association that does it, it was Bert Byer and Dick Jepson. It got started when I was the accountant and the treasurer's office. They're the one two that started that, and that War Memorial, it's one over on the corner there
Yeah.
on Points. But yeah, it was Bert Byer and Dick Jepson that got that going.
Our fund balance in this fund is $10,650. And again, here's just a snapshot. Motor vehicle fund. I do want to make sure we're all understanding that BOCC does not control this fund. This is a state operated fund. And then that transfer into general fund is what Shiloh determines that is okay to transfer over. So revenue comes from personal or commercial vehicle registration, and expenditures are of course the transfer, which the past few years has been about $300,000 that we've transferred over to general fund to kind of help offset some of those costs that our general fund is taken over for running the treasurer's department. So fund balance is $67,062. Benefit districts, so these are established by approval of the VOCC. Sewer and water benefit districts accrue revenue by residents paying fees for services. You can also do road benefit districts. We just currently only have sewer and water benefit districts. Expenditures are admin fees, transfers to they have the reserve funds that they transfer money to, and then of course, supplying the water and sewer out there. Next, we have fire capital outlay and projects. So this is accumulated by transfers in from the rural fire district, and the fire station projects in the past has received revenue from temporary notes and use it for specific projects. So currently the fund balance between the two is $696,429. And so this is the resources available for those two separate funds. And again, that includes unencumbered cash and revenue. And then here are the expenditures. Next, we have solid waste. The revenue is just transfer station fees, and expenditures, of course, include personnel, heavy equipment, and disposal. The fund balance currently is $628,829. Next, we have opioid, which I think we're all pretty familiar with. It's a state-funded program through municipalities by its addictions fund, and the fund balance is $110,573. Yes.
That's coming in how often? Yearly, monthly?
Yeah, I think it's like quarterly, because we just got a payment in December, and I don't believe I've seen one in January.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure that part of it out. Okay.
yeah, and we're currently using these funds, as you know, for our community health educator into the health department.
And how many years has that been coming through now?
I believe at least two.
Me too.
It's
Two.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, 22 is when it looks like it started, maybe.
23 is started. Okay. Okay.
Disaster fund. Revenue is federal grants for any major disasters. This is where ARPA money is held, and we approve interest on this. Expenditures are specifically for approved projects by the VOCC. Disaster fund balance is $13,518,351. And that is the end. Are there any questions?
I like your charts this month. It's great.
Thanks. I like making them.
I mean, that's a first for the color ones, isn't it?
Well, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Next, Commissioner, you have a press conference at 9:30. Several items.
Yeah. Back press conference. Maybe. Sure was fine.
Are you going to the game tonight?
Like, Rich, because we've been talking about changing some of the early voting rules. Now, one of them says that you're not gonna be open on Mondays, is that? Saw something saying it is, and then other one saying, no, it's not, you know.
It's passed one of the chambers, and so it's likely it gets sent to the other chamber.
Is that something, is that gonna make it easier if it's, or does that make much?
Yeah, I mean, it gives us more of a
You
timeline.
always had to close at noon, but.
Mhm. And then especially with the general, because with the general, we have 2 advanced voting locations here and at K-State. So just the amount of staff that it takes to do all that and then get ready for your full-fledged election the next day.
Full day to get ready.
Yeah, our association's really neutral on it, but yeah, it would
I didn't,
definitely
that's
give
why I
us
didn't know
more
if that's
time.
something you guys.
No, it was from the legislature. I got a text from a realtor in town last week saying, what's the deal? He said, I understand, give you guys more time, but what's the deal with this? I said, it's just gives the legislature something else to fight about.
It's gonna confuse the public, it's what it's gonna really do. So if we need to do that, we've got 3 elections and, this year.
Well, the rules are already different for the PPP
Right.
compared to the other 2. They changed those rules. Because now for this election, we have to have all ballots in possession by March 19th, election day.
Right.
There's no grace period at all, where you typically get through the Friday. So, yeah. But ask them if they care.
That was you, something to help you, but I figured, well, probably not.
Well, no, that's not the reason it's there. Like I said, it just gives them something to fight about. Mhm. And that's what I responded to this person. I said, it just gives them something to fight about. Yeah, would it help our timelines? For sure. Oh, for sure.
All day Monday to get.
Yeah, just imagine all the workload because staff are having to work late Monday night, because we distribute all the material to the poll workers and then getting ready to be here at 5:30 the next morning.
Right.
I just want to hear the reports out of the state, but I wonder what's the other side of it.
It's all generated from internal.
The end of the waiting day of March.
So I could see that, but then they were also asking, changing these days, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You can't keep the same thing every year, that'd make it too easy.
I know. I agree.
Oh, yeah. I think they get gypped out. Some things. So yes. Yeah, I'm here to watch you.
Nice that we have a step, but people come to me saying.
There's an air.
Barry?
Ron, you filmed the seats.
Good.
Actually, KAC did.
You get to be the mayor.
It's a good thing when you do this, too.
Full house today.
Oh, really?
You started that one. You know. I heard it, no. You don't ask who started it? That's why I was listening. He knows how those rumors are. It's funny, because back on it. That's good. We have to, sign up there, well.
We've got you signed up.
Yeah, okay, good. I thought this was. I can't remember what I signed.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Things.
Hey. Okay, good morning, everybody. We've reached 9:30, which is our usual start for a Monday morning press conference, and I am very, very excited this morning, judging by everybody who's here, and to present some employee awards on behalf of our Kansas Association of Counties. So I want to give a big loud shout out for providing these awards this morning. I know they've done it in some other counties, and I've been able to kind of see what they've done, but got a large stack of them here, and what it tells me is that we've got some long-term employees who have been working on behalf of the county and citizens from anywhere from 8 to 34 years in several cases, and that's just absolutely amazing. And the fact that we get the opportunity this morning to recognize those individuals is very, very, very cool. So I don't also made me realize that I probably need to get with you, John and Evan, at some point in time and start putting a few of these names to faces, because I don't know everybody in the Public Works Department, but it's a little bit tough. So maybe one of these days when it's not so hot, not so cold, maybe I'll come up there and pick up a shovel and maybe help dig a few holes or something. If the liability isn't too much of a problem. We'll have to work on that one. So let's see. Yeah, I have to get with Elizabeth. I can promise you I can actually do that. I've done it in the past. Maybe not very, very well, but anyway, so without further ado, I'll go through these and work through one by one. And for those that are not there, hopefully there's somebody here to take those in place of. And the first one I have in the stack of here, and we had them in order, but there was a couple other ones that came up, correct? Okay. The first one is Jana Chingwei, which is in Clancy's office, and I'm assuming you're going to take that in her place. So she is now the office manager in the county counselor's department. She's been here for 8 years. I'll give this one to you, Clancy, and if you want to say a few words on her behalf. Sure. Okay, go right ahead.
Real quick.
Yes.
It's 8 years of service. I'm sure Jan would tell you it seems like a lot longer.
Especially working on Clancy.
We're very lucky to have you.
Okay. And I can't believe, if I'm not mistaken, the next one I have is actually in the clerk's office, and this one is for Anita Clerk, who's the senior analyst in the elections department. That's her overall, I guess her overall title, but I know Anita probably does other duties as listed, and I can probably just let Rich go ahead and take care of that.
Busy with elections right now, or else you'd be here.
Okay, no, perfectly fine, so appreciate that. And it wouldn't have to be the case if we didn't have that third election cycle this year, but we'll go ahead and just leave that alone for all intents and purposes. So next one I have on my list is Penny Bellman. I know that's in the custodial department, so I know I see you around all the time, and we always have great conversations, and being able to work and be the eyes and ears of our department here over the last 8 years.
I'll do a big group picture at the end.
Okay, somewhere in here, if we can get everybody fit in here, so appreciate your work and efforts over the last 8 years. And the next one, we need some help if we're here or not, is Albert Lee. Albert? Okay. You two have also been here for 8 years as a utility technician, so see if I can get this opened up here for you.
I don't know.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, sir, for your service as well. The next one is Andrew Woods. Andrew is an engineering tech. You too has been here for 8 years. I do appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Okay. Without losing everything here in front of me. Don Shelton, Public Works Operator, obviously the Public Works Department, yes. I appreciate your service.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, smile nice and big for the camera.
It's a bright sweatshirt. It's almost hard to look at.
Considering the position, that's probably a good thing. And the next one I've got is for Eric Fulin. Sir Eric? Sir. Yes. You're also a Public Works Operator. Sir. It's the orange shirt there as well. He's been with us for 8 years. Thank you, sir, for your service. Thank you. County as well. Yeah, next one I've got is actually in the EMS ambulance department as a paramedic, Ethan Eastis. So Josh will be here to cover that one probably a couple more.
couldn't make it today.
Okay, on duty, I'm Mr. Out of town. Okay, we'll tell him that we appreciate his 8 years of service.
Looking forward to it, but couldn't make it.
Okay,
That's a lot of appreciation.
appreciate it, Josh. Moving right along. It's Michael Fry here, Josh, yes? Okay, good. And you were a lieutenant in the EMS ambulance department. You too have served for 8 years, so thank you for your service. Smile for the camera. Thank you, sir. Oh, boy. Now we're moving up. Lori?
More than 8 years.
More than 8 years?
Way more than 8 years. Lori has been with us, the Assistant Emergency Management Director, and obviously other roles for, can we say it?
Go for it.
24 years, and hopefully many more.
A few.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be held to anything if I say that. It's on the record. No, it's not.
We really do appreciate everything Lori does, and particularly during the severe weather season and wildfire season, and that work is very, very important to keep everybody informed, so we appreciate your working efforts. Next on my list is Sandy Harper. Sandy. She's an intensive supervision supervisor. That's kind of a double play of words there. She too has been here for 24 years. I know we're probably not gonna get number 25, so I'm not gonna ask on that.
Okay, I'll show just what I turned one on, sorry. That's something up. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy, for your time and service. Getting there. And we've got Tanya Driggs, yes. Legal Secretary for county. Been here for 24 years. Okay. Yes, thank you. And so we got 2 left here. Yeah, well, now we're moving into the long-term employees here. The next one is for David Adams, who is our EMS and ambulance director. I know he's not with us this morning, so I think Josh is gonna have to take that one too.
Thank you so much.
Okay, tell David we appreciate all of his work and efforts, continued work and efforts on some of the projects that we're working.
How long was that one?
32 years. I'm trying to do the math backwards on that one, and I've decided I'm just gonna give up on that. And last but not least, also for 32 years, last one I've got is for our county clerk, Mr. Rich Vargo.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you want to, since you're also an accountant, you can do the math backwards, can't you?
I was there.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you for everything you do, Rich.
Thank you.
So, yeah, it was quite the stack there, but I think what that tells us is that we've had some long-term employees for a very, very long time look forth their best working effort for Riley County. And I, for one, am very appreciative and very thankful of that working effort. And I know a time and day where it's hard to get that working effort for long term. I continue to hope for large stacks of those as we do those into the future, and we'll continue to work towards that. But thank you very much, everybody. We're very, very appreciative. So.
Before you go, can everyone who received a certificate gather up and experience about the desk? I don't think we'll fit behind the desk, but.
Not the field.
We can do that.
We need to stand up.
Say it.
Cover out.
Yeah, I can do that. I don't know. I started.
Everybody turn kind of.
It goes in.
Scooch in, scooch in. And then you just kind of rotate your shoulders. And 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Sounds good. It's more than
It's not me, you can muster a real one. I mean, the first couple, but then I'm like, after the third day.
Take care. See you guys.
I can turn it on. Hey. I've got one with enough. I got ready to do
We're up next in a couple of minutes.
You got one for us?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I didn't look at the order very well.
Oh, she's in the back there.
Yep, she's here.
Okay, next on the press conference, we've got Amanda Webb and Vivian Labor with the Flint Hills Leadership Program. Take her away.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. I am here today to recognize Amanda Webb, Raleigh County Planning Director, for graduating as part of the 30th class of the Flint Hills Regional Leadership Program. Raleigh County is a sponsor of the program, supporting the mission to empower leaders from diverse backgrounds with 21st century skills and help foster a vibrant future for the Flint Hills region. Embracing servant leadership, the program equips traditional and non-traditional leaders with essential skills through engaging sessions and practical experiences. The Flint Hills Regional Leadership Program Board acknowledged the completion of coursework and graduation of 21 participants of the 2023-24 class earlier in February during a ceremony at the Liquid Art Winery and Estate here in Manhattan. And unfortunately, Amanda was not able to attend, so I have the honor of presenting her with this lovely plaque in honor of her accomplishment. So there you are, and I get to take a picture. Show the selfie as well.
Yeah, I was wondering how that was gonna work.
Okay. I have no arms. All right. Very good. Thinking about the person.
Well, I know we have some time on Thursday's agenda where we'll talk more about the leadership program, so I'll talk a little bit more then. But I love the program. I really appreciate y'all nominating me for it, and it was just a great experience. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next up. Speaking of severe weather once again, right? We have a severe weather preparedness week proclamation, which starts on March 4th and 8th. Seems like a little bit early, but I guess we have the tornadoes and stepping weather in March. So start off with the proclamation and then say a few words if you want. Okay. All right. Well, whereas severe weather phenomena such as tornadoes, thunderstorms, large hail, strong winds pose significant threats to life, property, and infrastructure in our community. And whereas by promoting education and proactive measures, we can foster a culture of safety and resilience in the face of severe weather events. And whereas effective communication strategies, including the use of sirens, Everbridge, which I put in a point for this morning, emergency notifications, social media, and community outreach programs are essential components of a comprehensive severe weather preparedness plan. And whereas the National Weather Service, in collaboration with local emergency management agencies, provide crucial information and resources to enhance public awareness and readiness for severe weather events. And whereas through coordinated efforts, including public information campaigns, drills, and training exercises, we can empower individuals and organizations to take appropriate actions before, during, and after severe weather events. And whereas the designation of Severe Weather Preparedness Week serves as a reminder to all residents of Riley County to review their emergency plans, assemble disaster supply kits, and stay informed about local weather forecasts and alerts. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of March 4th through 8th, 2024 as Severe Weather Preparedness Week in Riley County, and urge all residents to take proactive measures to enhance their preparedness for severe weather events. In witness whereof, we have unto set our hands and cause the seal of Riley County to be affixed on this 26th day of February 2020. I'll say a few words on behalf of that, Lori.
Thank you for that. We talked a little bit about severe weather this morning. We went in. It's hard to believe that it is here, but it will be right around the corner before we know it. So we want people to take this time to prepare for the severe weather that we know will come eventually, but do it now before it's here. So we want to have a plan to know what to do at work, at school, if you're driving down the road. Have a plan of what to do, where you would take shelter, where to go, and have that supplies kit. So if you have to evacuate, you have things that your household may need for that 72 hours to survive. So think about, we always think of water and non-perishable food items, clothing, important documents to be taken along with you if you had to evacuate. So each kit is personalized to the household that it serves. And so we can only give you suggestions as what needs to go in that kit, but just think what you may need. And then stay informed. Whether that's through the Everbridge that we offer free to our folks here in Riley County, or if it's another app, maybe through another media source. But stay informed and know that the outdoor warning sirens are for outdoor use only and may not be heard indoors. So make sure you have plenty of ways of being notified in case one of those ways fails. So take the time, March 4 through 8, to be prepared. And we will participate on Wednesday, March 6 at 11 a.m. for the statewide tornado drill. So we will activate the outdoor warning system then and the Everbridge notification system on Wednesday, March 6th at 11. Questions you may have about Severe Weather Week? And it used to be Severe Weather Awareness Week, and now it's Severe Weather Preparedness Week. So I may use the wrong term, but any questions, I'd be glad to answer. Thank you.
Yes. Anna, you're up.
Ann Burson, Riley County Appraiser. I'm gonna just summarize this briefly. A full press release is gonna be available online. The Riley County Appraiser's Office mailed change of value notices last Friday, February 23rd. Property owners should start seeing notices in their mailbox by the end of this week. The CVNs reflect the changes in property value due to fluctuations in the local real estate market and or changes made to individual properties. Overall, the sales volume has decreased, but the sale prices have not gone down. Property values across Kansas are increasing at on average around 4%, according to data from the Kansas Association of Realtors, which just supports what we were finding here in Riley County. As a reminder, values on specific properties may not follow the general trends because of changes to the property, corrections to descriptive information, or sales in the market area indicate values outside of the typical range. The 2024 valuation data will also be available online today using a parcel search on the Riley County website. Around noon is when that information is accessible. As in previous years, the upcoming CVN mailing will include a form for requesting a valuation appeal. Property owners who have questions relating to the appeals process may call the appraiser's office appeal line at 785-537-6316. All appeal requests must be made by March 25th, and to ensure appeals are received and scheduled in a timely manner, property owners are encouraged to sign and return the appeal request form enclosed in their valuation mailing. Thank you.
You.
Good morning, Commissioner Rich Barber, Raleigh County Clerk. I want to remind everyone of the upcoming presidential preference primary, which that date is March 19th, 2024. Advanced voting will begin February 28th, and that will also be when we mail out the advance ballots by mail. The last day to request a ballot by mail for this election, and this election only, was February 20th. So we will have advanced voting up and through March 18th. It will close at noon by state law the day before the election. And of course, all polling places will be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Encourage everyone to go out to the Riley County website, the elections. There's a lot of information out there. You can find your polling place, a map of your polling place, and also the name of the candidates on the ballots for the respective two parties. Of course, voter registration deadline closed February 20th. So if those that are affiliated with a party cannot change their party to get a different ballot at this point in time, they can change their voter registration through the election process, or those that are unaffiliated, at that time they'd be required to affiliate with one of the two respective parties to receive the appropriate ballot. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Webb, Planning Director. I have a couple items for you on the agenda this morning. We will start with planning developments, my request, I should say, to refill planning developments as a clerical assistant position. I have received a resignation, unfortunately. Luckily, I have a little bit of time with her. It wasn't immediate. I think we have till about roughly mid-April or so. So I'm requesting to open the position as soon as possible to advertise, and then also in the hopes that we can have a little overlap for training. Just a quick side note, I had spoken to a couple of you so far about the potential for keeping her on remotely for a little bit of time. But for various reasons, unfortunately, it's just not going to work. So we're just going to go the old-fashioned route and open up our position request with your permission, and hopefully get somebody in here so she can do some training. One note I do want to make in terms of the job description, we did a little updating there and added some experience with software and implementation to the experience requirements. That's as we talked about, that's one of the big things that she is doing right now. That's been really beneficial for our new program and for the department. So if I can find somebody that has at least some background or some experience with some of that, I think that would be really, really helpful. So that was the only change we made to the job description to get that in there. And so with your permission, we'll get that opened. Another thing to note, as I am asking for some overlap of personnel, I just want to make sure you're aware I can cover that in my current budget. I would not need additional funding for training overlap. So everything would be covered under planning and development's current budget. Nothing additional would be needed.
See, you need a motion on this?
Please.
Oh, okay. I would make a motion to recommend the approval to refill the position and allow overlap for training purposes for the planning and development department.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the refill position and to allow for overlap for training purposes. All in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to give you a moment to sign. So the next item I have for you folks is a monthly comprehensive plan update report for February. just to give you a heads up on what we've been working on, these past several weeks since I gave you an update at the end of January. One of the big things is we have released all of the public survey input that we collected through the survey. It is available on our website. I can provide you folks hard copies if you would like. I decided not to put it in the packets because this is it. And that would be a lot to put in the packet, but I'm happy to provide you hard copy information if you would like it. Happy to do that. Again, everything is on our website. The whole idea was for everybody to be able to see the input that we've collected. This is a very transparent process, very public process. I want everybody to be able to see what everybody told us essentially. And we did not edit any of the responses, and rightly so. We shouldn't be editing, but I want to make sure people are aware, even if somebody put no, or there was misspellings or we did not change a thing. What you are seeing in the report on our website, what you will, if you'd like a hard copy, that is verbatim of what people shared with us. So some of them, again, might not be fully, sensible, but we wanted to leave it important to us. On our website, it's kind of divided out into a couple different formats. We have one full report just as is, just generated through the Alchemist software. And then we did another report where it's delineated by place of residence. The first question on the survey was, do you live in Riley County? The vast majority of respondents do live in Riley County, but there was, of course, the option to say no, because there's folks who maybe just work here and visit or, live on the perimeter. And then when you would say yes, it would pop open another question to say, where do you live essentially? And that's, of course, city limits of Manhattan, city limits of Riley, Randolph, Ogden, who am I forgetting? Leonardville, and then unincorporated Riley County. And so we thought it was really important to show the information, show the responses by location, essentially. So what you can see is it's all grouped by, if you said, I live in Leonardville, all of the responses, there's no names, there's no identifying information of names or addresses or anything like that. But everybody who said, I live in Leonardville, they're grouped together so you can see what their responses were and what their information is. So at least well, folks in Leonardville said X, Y, and Z. Folks in unincorporated said X, Y, and Z. So we thought it was really important to be able to delineate by, again, place of residence. So two reports on the website. One is just the full thing. One is, again, delineated by place of residence. And then each question, each open-ended question that was on the survey has its own link in there. And that too is delineated by place of residence, essentially. So all of that information is there. I encourage you folks and everybody and anybody who's interested to go out and take a look at what folks had to say. Most of what we're seeing is fairly consistent from what we've heard from the community meetings and just folks in general. But it's really important information for us to have. And so we'll start working on that as we're, again, just keep going through updating the plan and the goals and all of that. So any questions on the survey data so far? So other public engagement, we always like to say is public engagement is one of the most important parts of this. Without community input, community engagement, there's really kind of no point for the plan, because I like people to really understand this is the community's plan. This isn't the county up here saying, well, here's what you're going to think and here's what we're going to tell you. It's based on the information that we put in the public. What are their priorities? What's important to them? What do they want to see their community become in the next X amount of years? So that's why, of course, public engagement in a wide variety of ways we can do that are very, very important. And will continue on through the life of the project. There's a variety of ways that people can be informed, that people can be involved. Even if you're not a part of my one of my committees, you can review the current Vision 2025 goals, policies, and objectives, and send me a note, send me a letter, send me an email, give me a call, visit with me. Again, anybody can provide that input to us about what they're seeing in the current plan, they think it's working, and what maybe they would like to see changed in our new plan going forward. We have our website that we keep all of our information on. Ways to communicate, ways to, again, be involved in upcoming meetings, all of that. Also on our website, all of the information we collected through the questions we asked at each township meeting, all of that is on there, all of that public input is on there for folks to review. We collected a lot of email addresses through the different meetings and surveys and all of that. Newsletters getting in the mail today. One thing to note, originally I had wanted to send the newsletter out to every person who received a notification postcard for community meetings. That's over 5,000 addresses and several $1,000s. I did not feel that was a prudent use of taxpayer funds, so we've kind of rethought it a little bit. We're going to mail it to the folks who came to the community meetings, but we're also going to have it out at each of the buildings, the public facing departments, each of the county buildings. We're going to send it to the different city halls. Hopefully they'll be agreeable to posting it in their areas. And then various community gathering spaces. I have a lot of email addresses we'll be sending it to. It'll be posted on our website. And like with all of this, I'll just keep talking about it at any opportunity I can. The other thing, I would like the newsletter to be a regular occurrence. That was the other thing that kind of stopped me from spending that amount of money on one newsletter when this is something I would like to do on a more regular basis. So that's kind of what's happening with that. What else do we have? Our comprehensive plan committee. I should stop for a second. Any questions on the public engagement piece we talked about? Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've got plenty of questions here.
I can see it on your face.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, yeah, we have some time this afternoon to talk.
On your mailer, I was just thinking, Commissioner McKinley, what about, mailing it to those you said you would, but then what about putting something in the Riley County and that goes out?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, that'd be one way to get out to
It'd be
the
cheaper to do.
rural. If it's cheaper, I was just thinking of another way to get it out to a broader audience like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, so in there, and I don't know what that exactly, but because there is one, I can't remember which one, there's one that goes out to a wider group that once a month, I can't. remember which
Right,
one.
there is one.
Okay.
That goes.
Donna can tell you which
Yeah,
one gets the widest circulation.
She's on our committee, so you can
Oh,
see
okay, yeah.
what she can do. Thank you. That's
Just another idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Great, yes, I will definitely follow up. So our comprehensive plan committee, I was able to get about half the group. We have 54 members on there, so that I was able to get half of that is pretty darn good. So I was happy for that. Appreciate everybody's involvement and participation with that. We reconvened a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to provide everybody kind of an update as to what has been going on. Answer any questions, give tentative next steps. And each of the subcommittees, as you see listed there, each of their group leads provided an update to the greater committee. The idea, of course, I wanted everybody to be aware of what each of the groups have been up to. All of them have been having a variety of meetings, great discussions. Some of them are a little bit further along with some of their draft language. And what we're really learning, which again was important to get the group together to hear from each other, is there's a lot of overlap in the different sections. Yes, we're going to have different chapters. We're going to have different elements, health and ag and infrastructure, but there is a lot of overlap, and that's important to note. So it was good that folks were able to hear that discussion, and then they were also able to, your economic development committee, have you thought of this, or have you made this consideration, or folks were able to kind of fill in some background that maybe others weren't aware of. So I feel it was a really helpful meeting to get those folks together to hear from those different perspectives. So we'll probably do that again in the next few months, but the subcommittees will continue to meet. Again, some of them have their draft language, others are still working on it, which is perfectly fine. There's still time. And as I mentioned, all of that information will go out onto our website because, again, this is a transparent public process. So I want the general public to be able to review and understand what the groups have been talking about, what they're kind of thinking in terms of general draft language, and then also be able to provide their input and their thoughts on what's coming out of those discussions. So any questions on the committee? Right, so branding, we've talked about a little bit. What we're working on is taking a lot of the keywords, if you will, keywords, themes, et cetera, from the public input we've received to put together some options for a logo, a title, tagline, all of that. I'm envisioning that out for to take a look at and vote on in March, and then of course to you folks to review and decide on at a subsequent meeting. So kind of working on some of that. And then you have your tentative timeline there. So again, hopefully in March, which is coming up very soon, we'll have some options available for the logo and the title. And then April, we'll have some draft language for public review and just keep going with those public meetings with you folks and the updates and then with the planning board as well. So still targeting the end of 2024 for adoption, but again, like I like to say, if we need to be a little bit flexible with that, I'd rather we get the plan right than meet that exact deadline. So if we're next year, that's okay. It's more important to get the plan right than it is to meet a specific deadline. So any questions? That's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanda. Next, Commissioner Geo, Clancy Holman at 110.
10. You said
10. I did. I was going through my mind when you said that.
I have to look at it and see what time.
10. I say, Mr. Ford failed to provide lunch again.
I am providing lunch today, but it's gonna be at 11:30 instead. You have to go up to K-State. That's
You
the
can find a
deal.
parking spot.
I never make it easy.
I've got those World War bricks.
Uh-huh.
Do you know where those are? Who does those?
I do not know who engraves them. I do not.
I'm thinking of doing that, using that as a fundraiser for.
Cindy may know. Talk to Cindy Cagle. She may know. Mhm.
Rich, my sign, I can't remember, then I might have missed the sign up stuff on that building rural communities thing. It's just.
I do not know. I check. You want to go?
Not particularly. If I don't have to.
I don't know that you are.
Are you going?
Yeah, I'm going.
Okay. On that. Unless the board has some real interest, unless I'm already signed up.
I don't know if it's.
I'll check with Seth.
I'll double check.
Me here.
It's usually.
Since it's not a meeting.
Right.
Then we can negotiate. We just guarantee no executive sessions after weeks. You can skip that if you can.
You can always turn down the request for executive. So
Actually.
Now he tells you, huh?
it's never been a secret.
It doesn't eliminate it, it just postpones them usually.
Oh, no, not really. I mean, in the end, if I don't get 2 votes for it, you're not gonna have an executive session. I don't care what it is.
You might not like the consequences.
Now,
Right.
Or
Well,
maybe
I'm
you-
saying it doesn't,
maybe-
problem doesn't go away just because
maybe
you
you-
want to have a meeting.
maybe you'd be just fine, maybe it would be just one of that.
Never.
Oh, vistas of opportunity.
At least we're not doing like 378 school board.
Oh, yeah.
Not a minute, and a 20 minutes, then a 15-minute, not a 20-minute.
And
do that a few times.
we had a couple where you had to go out and come back.
But no, they've done this like 3 or 4 meetings in a row. They've had
That's not good.
going back and forth. Then it's the same battle.
Yeah, it could be a lot of times it's tough to predict how long you're gonna need.
Yeah. Oh,
And if you try and, that's why, I mean, it's just tough.
Every time I think we need a lot of time, it's like, oh, we're done, we're just sitting there. Like, something I think is straightforward, with lots of questions.
I figured out one thing I did figure out a long time ago is that from my perspective, there's no such thing as a 5-minute long executive. session.
You know,
That cannot be done.
No, it can't.
Like a 10 minute, and that's not fast.
Yeah, I tried that a few times and gave up on 10, which is 15.
Yeah.
Michelle. I'm good.
yeah, just when you think well, this is easy, they're not gonna have any questions.
Yeah.
I don't understand this.
Once and then Ryan, it reminds me, it's easy for me because I've been working on it for however. long.
Yeah, right.
And so,
went to the women's basketball game last night. It was exciting. Okay, you can.
Yeah, I was there.
You went? Oh, good.
Yeah, I have season tickets to the Cavens
Gotcha.
basketball team, so I try to go as much as I can. I don't get to every.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good sized crowd.
Yeah, it was half K-State fans.
Yeah.
I'll say that. They did show up.
Yep.
I don't blame it on me. They're doing so well this year.
They always do. There's a lot of Kansas City people that don't want to mess with come through here, but even
Okay,
that's an
thank
easy
you.
game to get to.
It's always fun, you know, and the crowd was good.
Yeah.
All those things, that's good.
Okay, go ahead, Clancy, sorry.
No problem. Good morning, Commissioners. Clancy Holman, Riley County Councilor. You have the project list in front of you, updated since the last meeting. I'm just looking first by just asking if you have any questions on anything that's on there. I'd be glad to try and answer it for you. As always, it's a snapshot of some piece of what's been worked on since the last report. And doesn't ever represent that, so you may have questions about items on there. Feel free to ask. As you're mulling that over, I will tell you, first of all, I want to thank you for giving our department the ability, permission to move out temporarily to the Public Works Department in anticipation of noise due to the construction project, renovation project on the fourth floor of this building, since we're the only office that's immediately below. It did not occur to me until Public Works Director mentioned, it's just kind of noisy. And that was based on some prior experience I described before. For an unrelated project that was out in the alley of the building. We experienced what it's like when the noise levels get bad enough that you cannot communicate within the office. So that said, the moment it appears that we have some long period of time, if it happens during this project or a short period of time, we will continue to work from this location. The primary thing that it's going to be potentially disruptive to the public about is when the tax sale process gets going full speed ahead for this upcoming season. Now, as I've described before, the work on that goes year round. We have staff that's working on the next year's tax sale constantly. That's how we stay current and resolve issues. People do take steps to redeem the property before the day of sale. Unlike a mortgage foreclosure, there's no redemption after the sale. There's only redemption up to the day before. And we always explain that. Sometimes people hear that, sometimes they do not. Sometimes people, honestly, just because it's kind of an odd animal, the tax sale is in terms of the legal process. They're not aware. Even attorneys very often are not aware. They will get questions. Shelley's probably already fielded some, I think, probably this year. I know Craig always did, and I did occasionally in past years when somebody says, well, my client's going to be interested in redeeming after the sale. Your client and owner? Yes. Well, your client's not going to be able to redeem after the sale. So you better start having those conversations with them right now so that they don't get caught unaware. Tax sales are never a money-making proposition. They don't generate revenue. What they do is write off property tax liability and transfer property into the hands of someone else who then the hope is will keep the property taxes current. So that property owner pays the assigned share of their responsibility of that owner's responsibility for the services the county delivers throughout the year. So that's the point of it. But it's a large undertaking. It requires quite a bit of work by staff and particularly our office manager and our legal assistant and also the attorney assigned to it, which thankfully is not me. That attorney's it's in the gallery. Shelley, our deputy county counselor, is in charge of the tax sale this year from a legal standpoint, taking over former deputy county counselor Craig Cox. And I'm sure she's experiencing all the joys of doing so. That's what I hear. And so, we appreciate her efforts on that. But what I started to say, it's potentially disruptive to some of them. We don't really get walk-ins during the year on most legal matters. We occasionally do. Normally, we'll get maybe a referral call. We'll know somebody's trying to get to us, and so we can make arrangements, make sure they know where we are, that kind of thing. Minimize what's been called the courthouse shuffle, where somebody goes from office to office. But during this upcoming season, to the extent we're not there, if somebody decides to drop in, what they will see, it will have some kind of a sign on the
That's
door
what I
that
say,
says,
something up.
we'll have some signage up. That isn't going to make anybody happy who's shown up and sees the sign. I've never been thanked for the sign when we're not, on those times when we're not open, but we'll at least take steps to get that out there. And I also anticipate we probably ought to do some kind of press release through Vivian to let general members of the public, particularly as we get closer to the tax sale itself, because things usually move into kind of high gear there. Greatest interest of people in sorting out tax sale issues is just before the sale, in those few months or weeks leading up to it. So there's a lot of activity then. But we'll get the word out to the extent we can. We will, as I've said before, our plan is whenever it's possible for long periods of time that we know that it's possible or we can work down here, that's probably the effort will be made to do that. And certainly we're going to come down, Shelley and I will come down anytime necessary to meet with department heads and to come to the meetings, that kind of thing. They simply have to have face to face. This is not by any means going to be an effort to only appear virtually, because I'm not a great fan of virtual meetings anyway. There's some things that you just have to have face to face contact, and we will accommodate that. I want to reassure you of that, but I do want to thank you for your willingness to understand that for a period of time, some unknown period of time, it's going to be necessary. And I do want to thank Public Works Director John Elvin for raising the issue with me initially and being willing to accommodate us by providing some office space down there in the basement of Public Works. That's where we're going to be. Best way to track us down is as we get moved out there. We have the technology thing all worked out. IT was great. I also want to thank IT for all the work they did. Our workspaces should be functional right now down there on the technical side. We're going to check that out this week. This week was the week we had assigned working with everybody where we actually start trying to move down there. And we're not taking file cabinets. What we primarily are going to have down there right now are desks and workable desktops. So we can do that, and phones. That would be nice. And we'll know for sure this week that that's all been done. IT is going to work with us to make sure everything's up and operating. And we should have the ability to simply, when we need to come down here, we come down here. When we need to be out there, that's where we'll be. And we'll try not to make it any more of a mystery than it needs to be. And during the times that you hear, to the extent you hear noise, and from that, you can just about bet we're not going to be here. Other than we won't be in that space on third. Probably out of public. Glad to answer any questions about that. And if you see issues that come up during that time that's causing any kind of a problem, you just let me know. We'll figure out a way to work through it. So that's all I have. Unless you have questions.
I was looking through all these and it looked like there's a couple that go back to 21. And the one that I was looking at was that White Canyon Benefit District. Has anything ever been resolved or discussed?
Well, it's been resolved to the extent that all the parties have been informed what the position of the county is.
Okay.
That kind of thing. It's a great example. I'm glad you asked about that, because there's some of the items on here that are long-standing items. They really need to be there for institutional memory to show that something was addressed. What I don't want to do is have this turn into something that encourages us to try and rebuild the wheel on something that's already been dealt with. And particularly those things that are either big scope or engage in a lot of public comment, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's the purpose. It's not because I'm just carrying it along. I want the next, whoever the next county counselor is, I want them to have access to that information and know they have a starting point. And so the board, so future boards know this was a subject that came up to the extent possible. And there is information available, certainly within our department, within the clerk's office, within other departments. So we don't have to start over again. Because as you know, particularly in matters dealing with real property, very often that we'll hear, there are times when we hear discussion from somebody who thinks an issue is brand new, but it's been dealt with over and over and over again by previous owners of the property, previous members of a district, a benefit district. And it's just helpful to have that. It's really there as a placeholder.
Okay.
It really is. It's not designed to just simply fill up the page. And I have gone back, the board has asked That's what you'll see on most of these. We go back 6 months
Mhm.
to the current month and try and get rid of even some of the background material. As long as we know that.
But you still got all that.
We've got
on file.
access to, yeah, we've got it.
Just to keep this thing from getting,
Electronically. I'm trying to make this less of a novel. So that you don't have items that you have to work through to get to the bottom. And to the extent you find that it's missing information, that you know something was dealt with before, and I've taken it out because it's a 6 month preference of the board previously expressed, just tell us. We'll provide that information. We'll give you whatever you need to know. As the client, you're entitled to it. We give it to you on request. Okay.
Because I noticed it was shorter. You know, this report is like shorter than the last one, so that's.
Before that would have been shorter than the one previous to that. That's the idea. That's the idea. I mean, seriously, no, it's a good question. It's a good question. I understand why you don't want to have any more to read than you absolutely need to. So, all right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nancy. Next, Commissioners, you have Shelley Woodard at 10:30.
Hey, John, are we gonna experience a lot of noise down here during our commission meetings?
I hope not, that you're on the other end of the building. But I don't know if it's totally out of question that.
And I was just kind of wondering if it's gonna interfere with our, you know, our broadcasts and that kind of thing, so.
All I know is you can't have our offices that are at.
Well, no.
Unless you tell me you want them. And
I
then
was
in
gonna
this case,
say, you
we'll
might
just make
want to
up no
refrain
mention.
from saying thanks just yet, because you know,
Hey,
it might not
if
work.
we have to have mobile. We just know match rolling around. We'll find a way.
Well, maybe borrow the vaccine mobiles that you
There you
travel
go.
around. Back
Where you saw that.
Don't be construction next to that, you're going to too, though.
Yeah.
An EMS station.
Oh, that's right.
Start in a couple months.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be reasonably flexible,
Well, that's good. So you know you're not being noisy?
consistent with being,
Nope.
that it being
Just
demanded we do
about-
something, in which case we'll do what we're told to do.
Huh.
So always listen to the client.
No, curve aside, I know where you are and it's closer to get to you. But
I figured you want to run away. I have a question for you at some point.
Sure. We'll do it now.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because now I'm going to have closer like this to you.
no,
You thought that for a vision.
might be able to see you hitting, but well, I won't be able to see you coming up the stairs. Did you go? Yeah, let's,
I was close pretty much the entire thing. There was one spot in the second quarter where Casey pulled out. This is the last. And I took a friend because like John had one of his used to stuff over to second. Listen to that really good. It's like, really good. But you know, they beat the word. And they came back and they were. Further, obviously, surprise. They have moments. They have moments. Which is why I remember. Yeah, it's pretty loud. I don't want to take my earphones. I wish I would. But I think I'm then saying to them. Wish I could do this. Oh, you should really find the right something, but I need to come over. I haven't been to the football stadium. I mean, if you like basketball, you should try to get some. Even just early in the season when you do that, especially if it's like in Florida State or something. I took my brother to his first game. There, I flew my dad and brother in for the sick to watch the Super Bowl. So I would fly out and watch it with them. We bought last minute tickets and delivered the field house. My dad, he's been there, he loves it. I was really about it.
yeah, we've been around the little museum outside, but we.
Little food hall.
What was really good yesterday is, I'm sitting right next to Lynette Woodard.
Oh, where?
Yeah, and my dad was so good with my grandma, my dad was just talking about it, you know, and my basketball. The last time she was there, it was like, she couldn't just, information, because she was so much fun the last time she was there. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And I was just like, if this is anybody. That's like, and so, this time I did, and she's finished, she's actually glad with the responses we shared last night. And then since we were sitting, there were nobody in this meeting. So I was sitting there, nobody said, right, like, I see the kids are, because I actually have to, but I did, that's what it was. And then the interview, I wish I could see the interview refer to the halftime show. So probably about like 8:00. One step. That was actually fun. Like that was really. And she was really happy to something. I'm like, sure, I didn't really yeah. She's really nice, and she's like, people behind my name with pictures. And so I have been up there. She's well over there.
Sure.
She's one of the candidates there that's on that. She was a all American. She won academic honor. She's an amazing student. She was young, but like they have banners for like those things, and she don't have it. She's there's one or two other players that offer it. I know. That's really great. But me and Clark, but man, because there's in my God.
I've got an appointment at 11, so Cindy's gonna come over at 10:45.
It turned out I did 40 pounds of bird Saturday.
A lot of bird.
Yeah,
Turn out good?
real good.
Good.
14-pound turkey, 10-pound turkey, and 2 chickens.
Nice.
Speaking of animal control, what's going on here?
Well, there was a game last night. It was a good game.
I don't think it was it?
You know, my view,
It was close almost the entire game.
yeah, it was back and
And
forth.
I got to sit right next to.
Last time I checked, Jayhawks aren't real, are they?
I was very excited because when that word was like, my dad used to talk about it when I was growing up, but she was sitting right next to us, so. She's pretty, well, she's the all-time Division I.
Oh, and that.
It wasn't NCAA at the time, so that's why you're seeing that, some that you're seeing like Kaylin Park, but.
Oh, that's what I was couldn't figure out. They kept saying she's beat this record, but she hasn't passed whatever. I said, well, then what's the big deal? That
Yeah,
was still the AIAW.
it was, yes, before, it was prior to the
Before NCAA.
NCAA governing women's basketball. And then there is somebody who was not Division I that scored even more points than one that.
Yeah, I think that's Jackie Stiles, isn't it?
No.
Was that high school? That was
She played
high school.
division.
I think that's high school. It was up in Pierce and she was at the Division II preschool. She scored so many, I was like 4,000. I didn't even see how many points that was. And then, you know, and then also I think both of those were prior to 3 point. Which makes it even more interesting. But it was fun. Yes, that's why there's animal.
There's that sheet. Then the average over 40 points a game.
Yeah. That high?
Oh, yeah. This was.
And that was before the 3-point game
Yeah,
too.
before three,
Oh, yeah.
before 3-point line, but also they talked about that. She said this Clark's getting close to his total. Well, he did 3 years when they only played like 28 games a year. Now they're playing 35 games a year.
Big
The
difference.
NCAA tournament was only 4
years.
games instead of 6. And
Well, because so because they're talking about that he played 80. He only played in 83 games. She
But
did.
LSU, his team itself wasn't really that good, you know?
But he was one of the passes he could, I mean, scoring, but also pass.
Okay.
I figured that.
Commissioners, good morning. As you know, we're having multiple discussions over our various animal control situations. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the resolution. As you are probably aware, there was a group of folks committee that kind of got together and put together a recommended resolution, and that's where we're starting from. I have a few recommended changes that I want to go over with you. And if you're supportive of them, then I can get a final draft put together to bring to you guys in the next few weeks. And so you can at least get this part hopefully wrapped up in the very near future. So in the process of my recommendations here, I talked to a lot of the stakeholders that would be directly involved. I met with Rich in his office. I met with Barry in his office, and Amanda and talked about some different things so that I can bring you some recommendations for all of us. And so I'll start on page 1 of the resolution in the definitions section. I added a definition for severe injury. And the reason for that is because after speaking with Barry, if we have an incident with like a dog bite that creates a serious injury to like a human, it would be more beneficial if his office took point on that, because there are some criminal charges that he has access to that I do not in our office. And so we added that definition so that way you'll see later on that will be what triggers when it would go to Barry versus when it would go to us. And obviously Barry and I work, whoever's in the office would work closely on those kinds of cases to determine where best to handle that. But it just gives us a little bit more flexibility to handle cases where there might be something more serious than what we can handle on our level. If we turn to page 2, Article 2, Section 1, I actually recommend that we remove the licensing requirements. We would keep the rabies requirement. They would still have to get their rabies shot, things like that. But for the unincorporated unincorporated Riley County, most people don't come in and register their farm dogs, and the clerk's office had tags at one point. I think they just didn't even use them. And so my recommendation, unless there's an objection, is we go ahead and remove that licensing requirements. I don't think it would bring in much in the way of revenue. I think it would be a lot more of an administrative hassle to track all of that. So
We can rephrase that from most people don't to nobody does.
I think we asked that question. It was like 4 and like 15
Years ago, there used to be one guy in town that did it religiously.
Yeah.
So is there any objections to removing that language? And I will plan on doing that. So I'll update that to reflect that. And again, on page 3, where it talks about anti-rabies vaccination, we'll keep that requirement for obvious reasons. We want to try to control the spread of rabies in the county as much as we can. And on page 4, so there at the very top, section 2, running at large, that's not something that I wanted to talk about. I'd like to maybe word it in a way, what I think that we don't want unless you just is patrols running around picking up dogs that are running. Because as you know, most rural dogs, most farm owners, their dogs aren't necessarily leashed, and they're not necessarily an offense, but they're also not usually causing problems. And I think what maybe we would want to do is look at that. If there's a dog that's causing a problem, that could be dealt with versus just somebody patrolling and picking up random dogs. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. As you know, right now we don't have animal control, but hopefully in the near future. And I don't know, in some cities and some jurisdictions, but animal control patrols, and they go out and they pick up strays and stuff that they see. I don't know that we were looking for that in the county. I guess it's kind of what I was looking at.
Well, like in that definition said, if they're off the premises of the owner, who knows whether that dog's on the owner's property or the neighbor's property,
Exactly. It's a lot harder to identify in the county than it is in the city.
Yeah, they could be running through the fields, but
and so I
it
think
looks like they're loose, but it's really
right. And so I think reworking it to be complaint based would probably be a better choice. Unless there's any objections to that. On section 4 on that same page,
we discuss tethering, so basically to make sure that if dogs are out on leads or leashes, that they're in a way that they don't cause injury, strangulation, etc. What is currently best practices for that would also be to include something that they would have continuous access to food and water. And so I would recommend that we add something, just that's the most modern requirement for tethering. So unless there's an objection, I'd like to add a requirement that they have access to food and water if they're out on either a tether. And on that same page,
I'd add another maybe appropriate medical care if needed too.
I can add that, and then we're gonna talk later about neglect. So, but I'll add some things, we can see what that looks like on them. Absolutely. On that same page, if you go to section 6, is one of the first places where we see that code enforcement officers can basically serve as animal control, and I recommend we remove that from the language. We don't have, our code enforcement officer is not trained to do animal control, doesn't have the proper equipment which is required. And after talking to planning and development, they agree that they don't think that they're really equipped to handle that. And so unless there's an objection, I'm gonna actually remove the code enforcement officer everywhere you see it in here. And so that way we're not sending out an untrained employee to try to handle animal control. From a liability standpoint, I think that would be problematic. So, are there any objections to removing our code enforcement officer?
But what about law enforcement too? And they're technically not necessarily trained in most cases either.
I'm a fan of leaving it in there in so much as that we don't actually control law enforcement here, which is a little bit unusual. And so they can make the judgment call on, they have the discretion on how they handle their stuff. You could remove it, but if an officer, if there's
I'd
something.
rather you write in there that leave it at their discretion and write that in there specifically.
I can find a way to include that,
Okay.
absolutely. Because what I think, what I envision
And there's a
would be if there's a
specific reason why I
serious
say that.
injury, if you have a serious injury to a human and you have, say, law enforcement and medical and stuff showing up, it would give that law enforcement officer the ability to handle that situation if it's left in here. And so, but I'll draft up some
Yeah.
other discretion.
Yes, they can't until the animal control person gets there.
Yeah. So that's really the only place where I see that being, and something that would come up is if they're involved in.
I do agree with the code enforcement on our side, but
And if we go to page 6, under there, we added a definition for vicious animal, and that ties back to our severe injury. And so that's a new category. So we have dangerous animals and vicious animals, which are going to be 2 different categories. Dangerous is the vicious animals that have caused severe injury, and that's where kind of Barry's office is, and that's where this ties in there to that definition. And if you turn to page 13, section 9, this is where the vicious animal section has been added. And again, that's a step up from your dangerous animal, and it would be a violation to own a vicious animal within the county. And remember, that is one that's been adjudicated vicious, and because it has caused severe injury to a human. And there are some limits. If you look at section 2 on that, right, it does not apply to dogs that are assisting law enforcement in their official capacity. It does not apply if the severe injury was to a person who was committing a criminal offense or willful trespass on the property. And so that we're limiting it. If it said were my property and someone came onto my property and my dog injured them because they were committing a crime, that would not fall under the vicious dog. To create some limitations, but not all dogs that are doing things that they are expected to do wouldn't necessarily get caught up in the vicious dog definition. And then this is where section B is where Barry's office comes in. The penalties for that are wonderful. And I had a case in another county where we had a severe injury, and we didn't have anything like this, and quite frankly, the best that we could do was a $400 fine. And somebody in that county who lost use of their hand, permanent use of one of their hands, the dog attacked some children, it attacked livestock. It was a serious situation, and that's where this kind of comes into play, is it gives us more flexibility to handle those cases in that particularly severe.
Do we really have to define maybe what the term crime is in this case though, or no?
A criminal offense would be anything that would be, and those are pretty specific. Those are things that are misdemeanors and your felonies,
But should we define that in the language?
which I can add a
As-
definition. If that would, yes, I can do that.
Because if somebody has a no soliciting sign on there and their dog gets vicious and you accidentally walk up there, is that considered a crime?
It could fall under willful trespass potentially.
But if you've got it listed in the language as a misdemeanor or a felony, it would be a felony, but as a misdemeanor, then we properly defined it, I would think.
And that's obviously too where Barry as a prosecutor, his prosecutorial discretion is gonna come into play too, but he may say that this doesn't fall under that as well, and he's gonna have that professional ability, but I will add a definition in there, so. When you get, if you go to page 17, section 4, we talked about a little bit earlier about adding things like vet care and things. We have cruelty to animals. It doesn't apply to normal veterinary practices and rodeo practices and things like that. So I want that just to be on there, that you can see the cruelty to animal. There's a handful of things that are carved out to make sure we're not catching people who shouldn't, be caught up in that. Like I said, with like the rodeo and things like that, as long as it is acceptable standards. And if you go to page 19, that's a continuation of that. Cruelty to animals is a criminal offense. And so I have added Barry's office into that because again, that's a criminal offense where we would need to take a look at that. And then and in section F, I think we need to rework that a little bit. It's going to be probably in connection with whatever contract we enter into with the shelter, because so subsection F there is where animal cruelty goes to the shelter and kind of their role in our role. So I'm going to look at rewording some of that to make sure that it's conforming with whatever contracts that we have in place. So just want to be make you aware of that. There, I think that's most of the big stuff. I'm just wanting to make sure I don't miss anything. And obviously, we're going to be updating things like signatures and stuff as we go along. I don't know if the signature page on yours has been updated yet, but those are the big updates that I recommend. And if there are no objections, I can get those worked out by some of the next days and have this back to you so we can have an updated discussion to replace the 119 that we currently have. Do you have any questions? Any suggestions, objections that we haven't already discussed?
No.
And then I will get that work done. I will get it back to you, and hopefully we'll have a new resolution here ready to go in the very near future. And like I said, that'll be one part of our kind of 3-part process here of updating all of our.
Thank you, Shelley. Next commissioner, you have Wyatt Thompson at 10:45. Oh, Wyatt, how you doing?
Oh, good.
I'll be back, Commissioner. I'll go to my 11 o'clock appointment and I'll see if the caregiver now. Careful thing is not there. Wyatt, if you just want to scroll up and down. No, that grandfather.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You bet.
Okay.
Go ahead, Wyatt.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for having me over to talk about Seco Park. We've talked multiple times over the course of the last year, and wanted to bring you an update on where we're at with the project. I know I don't have a lot of time to present this morning, but I wanted to quickly bring you up to speed with where we're at, and then really share the design concept today and how that might impact the county. I will be looking for direction on how we could move forward on a couple of items here. A lot of this I presented at previous meetings with you all, but obviously this dates back to 2015 when we identified some goals to improve facilities, and we passed a funding mechanism to do so. And then in last year, we hired our design team of BHS Construction, Bruce McMillan, to put together the details of that. A number of objectives that I shared at a previous intergovernmental meeting. I believe in big picture, we're looking to improve the city's facilities at Seco Park to be able to attract new opportunities for recreation, for competitive sports, for high school sports at that park, as well as update a variety of other aspects dealing with ADA, drainage, connectivity. I've had a number of public engagement opportunities so far. Have our steering committee, which you all have a member on. We've held some focus group interviews, and several other public meetings, and several more meetings planned with the Board of Education, with you all, depending on feedback today and the directions we move, as well as City Commission and a public meeting are planned here before the summer. So we've got two areas that we're dealing with in the park. One is with the ball fields, and one is with tennis courts. And so when we're talking about ball fields, here's a picture of what exists today, more or less. The white lines are the property boundaries. And I know that's been a point of conversation in the past. So our goal is to update with four fields that are sized for community recreation as well as high school activities. So these would become the primary fields for Manhattan High baseball and softball. We've limited the paved parking improvements to city property. So that's here. And then we tie into the gravel lot that's here on the county property to the west, but we would not make any improvements to that area. We do think it's important to have a temporary construction and possibly grading easements on this parcel just during that construction period. And that's something that if you're willing, we'd like to work with John or your attorneys to craft how we could have a temporary use of that during the construction of the project, which would be next year into the spring of 26. And as we get closer to that, we could define more specifically those dates. I know, not being there during the fair would be something that we could consider, and things like that we'd want to work on. But I think at this point, philosophically, is that something that you would consider partnering with us on so that we could allow that construction to occur? The rest of the details of this project are solely on city or USD property, and would be, obviously we would be the primary users of that space. In terms of tennis, we're dealing with this area here east of Bishop Stadium. We've got our 3 tennis courts here today. We're looking to expand that number of courts, again, primarily on USD 3 property, which we're working with them on those agreements. But again, the white lines are the property lines. So the county does have this portion south here along Robinson Drive. So I have a couple of different options here for tennis, and would like your feedback on how we proceed with those designs. Concept A shows it shows 8 tennis courts on USD 383 property. That's here with the potential to expand 4 more to 12 up here. It also conceptually shows 4 courts on Riley County property. This is very similar to what was shown in 2017 to the commission at that time that we built our question around. We'd also envisioned some sidewalks, to connect things that might fall on county property or along Robinson Drive. The advantage of this layout for the USD is that it does preserve some open green space where they could have throwing discus and shot put events, which I believe they do currently west of Bishop Stadium on the county property. So that could potentially shift here to USD property, and then some parking up at the north end that would serve both the tennis as well as the baseball fields. Concept B shows 9 courts on the USD property. Eliminates a lot of the parking from the north end and creates potential room for javelin and discus and shot put, which has been a big push for the district in terms of trying to find a safe space to do that. So we believe that we've got enough land area to carve that out here. And then that it shows possibly reconfiguring the parking at the south end on the county's property. There's currently parking, all along this edge in gravel. Most of that would go away. The county could retain a small piece of that down here. This idea would propose expanding that to serve tennis, to serve track and field, to serve county fair events, other things that might be happening in the park.
Now, that, where your optional parking lot, that's where our playground is now, right?
No.
Or no?
Playground south.
Is that down below?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
down below. Yeah, so this is a photograph of at that intersection. So we're standing right here at the intersection of Reith and Robinson. We're looking northwest.
Okay.
So that's the area that we're talking about
Oh, okay.
here. There's this existing parking and that could remain. There will be a point up here though where our project cuts that off. And I think we want to have a conversation about what that transition looks like. And then this is the other side, kind of further down Robinson, looking back to the northeast of that same area. So the playground, Commissioner Foki, is further south.
Further
And
south,
is not
okay.
part of anything that we're showing today. So in terms of next steps, we do have another advisory committee meeting on February 29th. We'll be at the Board of Education with some updates on March 20th, the commission work session on March 26th. And then once we have that input, I mean, we're really narrowing down to a final concept that we can develop a final guaranteed maximum price for as by June. And so then we want to get into final design through the end of the year and start construction in 2025. So discussion topics with you today. I know we've only got about half the time left here, but input on that temporary use of the gravel lot and that easement that we could potentially work on. Input on the tennis courts and or parking potentially improved on Riley County property, as well as any of the questions or topics that you all have for today that you'd like us to consider as we work toward that updated concept and final design.
You talk temporary gravel lot, that's the one at the north end.
Yes, for the baseball.
Yeah. And like you said, big thing is just have it cleared out for a fair, because that's used.
Yeah.
Overused.
Yeah.
It's already cramped. It's fair. But also on the tennis court stuff, are all those taken out, that skate park?
All the concepts are currently taking out the skate park.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's been there a long time and it does get used, and we're making plans for a different form of that to appear somewhere else. To be built somewhere else, but that style of metal structure has lived its life. It's time to do something different.
It really was kind of a bad.
Yeah, it's been there for a while.
Yeah, that is. I don't know that I have a problem with the access on that part of it, but yeah, we'll have to figure out something during the week of the fair for sure. I'm sure we can figure that out. That's not a problem. Any conversations with MATC on that parking lot too, on the tennis court end of it?
We haven't engaged with MATC yet.
Okay.
Do they
know.
currently use some of those lots?
They are now, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I don't know if it's just park construction
Okay.
over there now. There's quite a few cars.
I know that, they've got the one phase going on right now, and then the big phase that's gonna be there up there on that corner. And then obviously the remodeling of, or revamping, whatever adjective you wanna use, of the main facility, so that's probably a discussion all three of us are gonna need to have at some point in time there. I do know in terms of the fair, extra parking would be a huge benefit there, and for other events that happen from time to time. That's certainly something to keep in mind. What kind of an interlocal agreement or MOU we need to discuss for maintenance and upkeep or whatnot, I guess would probably be part of that discussion, but we probably, if we're talking about concept A or concept B, I would probably favor B at this point in time just for that. And obviously
Well, A has another parking lot at the top too, though.
right,
But either one of those taking that, I guess that between the property line and the street there, I don't see a problem.
no, I mean, I don't see what we're ever really gonna use.
Yeah, there isn't anything.
That particular little, if I remember right, there's a little bit of a dip in the topography or something there too, or is that over a little bit?
I think it's higher, it's a little bit higher on Reef.
Yeah.
I think it gets fairly flat once you get into this.
Okay, it's a little
It's
bit
either
further
a
to the
few,
west.
And then
three or four parking spots there.
I haven't been over there in that area for a while, so that shows you what I know.
So I mean, the county facilities that would be impacted by either of those proposals would be this existing, couple parking spaces, and then a little bit of the trail network. And then this existing gravel parking. It's, probably, I don't know how many spaces, 10 or 12 spaces there.
I don't know what you guys feel about that trail system there that we have, but I think it's outlived its life.
Well, but I don't think that exercise trail goes up into that one, is it? Right?
I think there's a small piece of it that kind of loops in.
Is there
A
one piece up
lot
there?
of the trail network here was redone with the detention project several years ago, and so things do connect. But if we put tennis courts there on the district's property, they won't connect unless we work out something with you all to be able to reconstruct those sidewalks on the county's property and make that passable for pedestrians again.
Yeah, I don't know how useful that trail thing is, most of it's. On the
And I moved
south
over
end.
there 20-something years ago. I never really seen it get used, and the way it was constructed to begin with, I don't know if that's the case now, it was kind of done in parts to where it could be pulled up and put back down, and it's old.
Exercise things, yeah. I've never seen anybody use them.
In the station.
Oh,
Use them.
Okay, one person in almost 30 years changes the percentages a tad bit, okay.
I do like this where you've got the javelin and discus,
Yeah.
yeah.
separate
Giving
space
them
for
a
them.
space.
And I will tell you that that's from COVID to where we're at right now. I've heard from many different parents of that being something of necessity, and I would tend to agree. It's
Yeah,
it is. That's another reason why I kind of like how that's kind of set up there too.
So I'm hearing concurrence, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm hearing concurrence that we can work with your team, either Public Works or the attorneys on some easements for that upper northwest parking lot for a temporary easements to facilitate construction. And then like the idea of concept B with, obviously we need some agreements and details worked out if we're going to construct and someone's going to maintain that parking lot, but prefer the idea of parking and connectivity over the option for tennis on the county's property.
Yes.
yeah.
I did have one other question on the north end there, because obviously the entryway there kind of into that north end is through Kimball there. Is there discussion on the city's end of how that entryway is going to be at the top there
Into
coming in?
baseball. Yeah, so
Yeah,
this is the intersection of Kimball and Campbellwood.
right.
And I think for the large part, it will line up with the existing Campbellwood.
Okay.
There's some discussion I've had with the city engineer about adjusting the north end of that leg to get maybe a turn lane or
Okay.
something. And we're taking that into account. I don't know the exact timing of that project compared to this one. But the goal will be to, as best we can, line up those intersections and maintain that entrance.
Okay.
That would mean shifting some of that park entrance
to the west.
It could shift this entry and this stacking
Which
here.
Encroach or get right up on our property line, or maybe use some of that within the right of way.
Yeah,
To
okay. Well, I mean, we can work on that as needed. I'm just kind of concerned about that unfair time too. That particular year, 25 or whenever it is. You're just gonna have to adjust.
And I think, I mean, obviously, our contractors are local, our team is
Yeah.
local, they know the ebbs and flows
Right.
of the community. And so I think we'll put together some phasing strategies, you know, to try to, as best we can,
Sure.
take into account those big events that are gonna happen here.
Yeah, but this project is somewhat separate than the road project.
Sure.
It will happen the same or just after this, so that coordination may be different with their public works, their plans.
Typically, those things happen in spring and summer, so we're not gonna not gonna avoid it outright. So that is what it is. So,
We are all aware of it, we're all talking, I know Brian and John have spoken about the roadway projects before, so
Yeah.
I think that more conversation to finalize those details and make the best of that situation.
As far as dealing with public works or council's office, they both pointed at each other.
but they're all gonna be combined in one spot here for a little while, so you know, you might be able to work with them all the same too. So.
Yeah, I think we work pretty well together, getting easements back and forth, so I don't have any concerns about that. And we'll develop this concept B a little bit further, and then try to understand what exactly this down here looks like.
It's gonna take.
And what it would take.
Sounds good.
So, all right, well, I appreciate the discussion and the input, so we'll make those final adjustments and come back to you again with those details.
Okay, appreciate the time this morning. Okay. That was the last agenda item besides our intergovernmental luncheon, which takes place, this lunch is being served at 11:30, so I'm gonna have to have a show there at this point, which is good. So,
I'm not gonna make it. I'm worried.
you had enough. You had enough for the day, first day, man.
That was the PT this afternoon.
And I use PT as an excuse to go and take a nap. No, I'm good. Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn after the luncheon.
I'll make a motion to adjourn after the intergovernmental meeting luncheon.
A second.
Been moved in second to adjourn after this afternoon's intergovernmental luncheon at the university. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See everybody back.